Hello and welcome to Warblog. This is a tutorial on artillery fire. So most things in the game are fairly easy to understand, but artillery is a little more abstract. I mean, there's nothing particularly abstract about it, but if you don't know how to use it, you might wonder. This is an artillery unit, so you should know that if you're playing a game like this. It's the sort of NATO symbol for artillery with a little dot. You can see it's slightly different to all the other counters around it in that it has an extra digit up there, which is its range, and this one has an 8. It's not that clear, but that's just the way it is. After a while you become a little more familiar with how it works, and it's a little less relevant. I mean, it will either hit something or it won't, but the beast is an artillery unit. It can move in the same way other units do, so we can move it there, for example. We've still got movement. Whilst we've got movement, we can fire. So we've got an 8 range, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so we can hit that unit. And so to fire at that unit, at that range, and it's also worth noting that most units have a range of 4. This is a particular scenario that sort of where it was felt that giving them a range of 8 was more applicable. For example, these are rockets, which are exactly the same as artillery in the way they work, but they've only got a range of 4. And the whole idea in this scenario is to give these a greater range than these rockets, which is significant, in the strategy. But so anyway, we're going to use this and fire on this unit, and it takes us through basically to an artillery screen. Now it's not particularly well labelled at the moment, but so we can fire at that. Now we can fire we can fire one or all of our units at that. Generally speaking, when I play, I only fire one at a time because you get more chances of inflicting a certain amount of damage, and when you select them all at the same time, what you can often find is that the damage you inflict is the same as if you did one at a time. So it's a sort of one of these things that's a game mechanic. In theory, you should sort of, if firing all your artillery, then you'd select all of them in this instance. And so in this instance, I think we're going to fire all of them just to sort of see what happens. So we attack, and it basically does no damage, which is sort of what I was saying earlier. So so this is almost like not just a tutorial, but almost a strategy guide, because now if we go back and we end that turn, it takes us through to the opposing player's turn, and we go back to this the phasing player that we just did, and we do that attack again. Now last time we failed, but this time we're doing one attack at a time, and this time we did damage. I mean, not only did we succeed in doing damage, we did more damage than we did the last time, and we still got 3 other units. 0.6, and so it's actually much better. Now the thing is, it was just really unfortunate that we used all of them and got nothing. 0.25 and 1.5. Now that essentially the way the artillery works, it sort of adds up the numbers. So this is 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4, so that's 16. Going against a defense of 1, so it's pretty likely to hit. And then the damage would have been sort of 0 to something a little higher than the 1 to 4. So on this one, because it would have been firing at 4 to 1, it would probably be slightly less likely to hit. But when it does its damage, it will be the range will be slightly less. So for example, the damage, if I just fired this one, might be 0 to 0.5 to 0 to 0.5, as we've sort of seen the spread there. If I'd hit with all of them, it might have been 0, as we know, through to 2. So I could get a lot higher, but the cumulative result is greater when you fire them separately. It's just a sort of a game. I don't want to say game mechanic. It's in games you get little quirks where you sort of think, well, hang on, if I play it this way, it's better for me. But anyway, So that's pretty much how artillery works. So again, just to reiterate, you grab the counter and you slide it over onto the unit. Now if we go through the term again, as you can see, a lot of units are now using their shovels to dig in. We can see that we can hit most units. However, with a range of 8, if we try to hit this one, which is probably out of range, what we find is it goes through to the combat screen, because what we're saying, we will initiate a combat on this, but clearly we've got no units surrounding it and got no artillery in range. So you don't really have to really sort of count the hexes. You can sort of say, well, I think these are probably both in range, but are they? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. How about this one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So will he be able to hit that one? In theory, they should all be able to do it. So that is the limit of their range. So, but this one, we think that this one probably be out of range. Yeah, so there's only one of those artillery pieces that's in range of that. So essentially, if you really can't be bothered to look at the counters, mostly they're going to be about 4. It should, once you start playing the game, you should pick it up. But essentially, and you don't have to even use that counter. I could initiate a combat with this entrenched motorized unit onto there, and then the act of that initiates the combat sequence. But clearly, I don't have any units in there to do combat. So so you don't necessarily really have to sort of do that. Sometimes it'll be a little easier to just grab the nearest unit, if you're thinking of attacking that one. But obviously we've not moved any units, and this is just a tutorial on artillery. So just sort of finally to look at some of the rockets. The rockets are acting exactly the same way. So we're trying to fire our rockets at this unit here. And as we can see, we don't have anything in range. So in order to fire our rockets, we'd actually have to move them into range. So flicking through this stack here with some rockets here. That move took 0.9. Okay, we've gone down to 0 because we moved into a sort of an obstructed hex. So essentially, trying to close the range. But in order to hit these, I'd have to be 1, 2, 3, 4. I'd have to get there in order to sort of even start attacking these. Whereas I'm open to counter-artillery fire from there. So basically, that's how artillery works. Hopefully, that should be fairly simple and straightforward. A slight word of warning on some of the older games. The artillery was done slightly differently. This is a game that's evolved, and you might find that there's no number on there. You might find that the defense factor is quite high. Essentially, artillery will have a defense of 1 for companies, defense of 2 for battalions, defense of 3 for regiments, etc. So a regiment might have an attack of, say, 12 and a defense of 3. I mean, they don't defend very well, but on some of the older games, the numbers were equal, so a regiment might have a sort of 11, and that made them pretty invincible, when they're sort of attacking, or when they're being attacked. So what I'm saying is, some of the older games, the artillery needs adjusting. So if you're looking at an older game and you think, hang on, there's no range on here, or there's something a bit odd, put a message on Facebook or in the comment section below the game, and I will go in and basically bring it up to date. So what I'm saying, some of the older games are a little out of date, or potentially out of date. I mean, essentially, whenever I spot an out of date game, I update it and replace the artillery units. But some of them might have missed my attention, so that's something else to possibly bear in mind with artillery. Hope that makes sense. If you've got any questions, just go onto Facebook and ask a question, or if you signed up, send me an email from the contact page, and do my best to help you. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye.